Hey guys, Tyler Ansman here with Tyler Ansman Performance. So what we're going to talk about today are some kind of key considerations when you're kind of building out your drill work and performing your drill work kind of prior to your main throwing on a given day. All right, so I think kind of the first piece to consider is kind of what are the goals that we're trying to accomplish there. I think too many guys are just kind of taking plyo balls and just ripping them as hard as they can, just like into like the bottom brick of the wall. And then they're using it essentially just as a warm up, and then they get into whatever their throwing is for the day. That's not really what it's there for. This is a really good opportunity to kind of feel out this kind of this rhythm of relaxation and tension, and how do we time that so we can crack the whip appropriately, right? If you're just gripping them and ripping them into the floor, we're not really gonna get that element from this. So be mindful of that, and we're trying to feel that rhythm, that dance of relaxation and tension, all right? I think kind of the second piece goes along with that, all right? We wanna be mindful of our intensity, okay? One, these are generally gonna be the first throws of the day that you make. So we're using these as kind of a lead-in / warm-up into what else we're doing, right? Obviously, just what I just said is not their only purpose, but you do want to be mindful of that. Kind of the second piece to that is these aren't free throws, right? These count as part of your throwing load. So if we're not accounting for kind of how intense the plyo throws are, or whatever we're using as part of our drill work, then we're really not getting an accurate picture of what our throwing load looks like. We may be just kind of vastly overshooting what that is. So we want to be mindful of that, all right? Kind of the third piece is a target can be really helpful. So whether you kind of tape off a square on the wall, you have a bunch of different targets, right? This can add some kind of pieces to the puzzle when it comes to working on command. And it also allows us to kind of have this kind of area that we're generally kind of aiming for. So my rule of thumb for most guys, you want to hit the wall. If we're assuming we're just a couple feet away from the wall, you want to be between kind of chest height and eye height on the wall. You want to be just slightly arm side. So if you're ripping it down into the floor, like at ankle height on your non-throwing arm side, that's too low, too far across your body. We don't want to be developing accidental cutters while we're working on our drill work, all right? Be mindful of the window we're throwing to or through if we were trying to kind of get that ball to go 60 feet or a little bit beyond, all right? Kind of that fourth piece is let's be kind of mindful that not everybody needs to use the exact same implements, all right? So plyo balls are great for some guys. They can be really helpful because they add this different feel, right? This is kind of one of the funny things about adding seams to plyo balls is it kind of disturbs one of the purposes of kind of giving us this kind of differential element when we're doing our throwing training, right? Plyo balls with no seams, kind of this rubber feel to them, different kind of sand inside, all that kind of stuff, changes the way we throw these balls and kind of knocks us out of our typical kind of like psychological comfort zone when it comes to the baseballs with the seams and things like that. But not everyone needs to use plyo balls. So we should individualize both the mass and the implement that we use, right? So with some of our guys, they'll never use plyo balls. They only use baseballs. We could still do our kind of constraints work with just baseballs. We have some guys who will use kind of the over and underload kind of leather baseballs. They don't like the feel of plyo balls. For whatever reason, they just don't work great for them. We have other guys who will use softballs, footballs. They'll use, you know, kind of heavier plyo balls, lighter plyo balls. It really needs to vary based on kind of the goals that these athletes have and kind of the patterning changes we want to make, and then some level of comfort that they have. All of these things need to be kind of considered when we're building out kind of this throwing program. And I've got another video kind of diving into why we choose over versus underload. So if you haven't, check that one out. And then kind of the last piece of this is we need to individualize the constraints that we're choosing. Not everybody has the same needs when it comes to how we want to change this throwing pattern. So we should be mindful of that. We may have kind of categories that we pull from based on how we kind of chunk this, right? I'm actually writing something about this right now. But while we may pull from those categories, how we kind of build out that program as a whole, what specific drills we select from those categories, all those, whether a category is even relevant for a guy, that is all kind of part of the puzzle. That's why we have to do kind of a deep dive on the assessment when they first come in. All right, so not everybody just needs the same kind of plyo drills, right? Everyone's not doing Marshalls or pivot picks. rockers, right? Walking windups, roll-ins. There's going to be different selections for different guys based on kind of structure, needs, all of these pieces. So these are just a couple things to think about when we're talking about kind of building out and performing our throwing drills on a given day or kind of over a given cycle. If you want more information, feel free to drop us a comment below, reach out via email. If you're interested in training, do the same. Thanks for watching. See you soon.